There once was a time where the internet was a lot more fun, so to say. It felt like a place for people, not relentless advertisements disguised as people. To me, it used to feel a lot more genuine, I guess. Like when I was young and would go on YouTube, I would see all types of silly videos that just seemed like the person making them wanted to because it was fun for them. There was this wholesomeness to people trying to make the next viral video by doing something crazy or making a funny skit, or maybe their dog ate a burrito from Taco Bell in 1 second flat. You know, it was simple. It seemed more fun. The early days were simple. But of course, it didn't stay that way. So how did we go from these fun old viral videos to IRL streamers addicted to drugs, clip farming in public? Well, I guess let's look at some history, shall we? As these social media platforms grew in reach, they became a legitimate platform for people to reach extremely wide audiences for a lot of different things, and that opened the gate for amateur entertainers. Viral videos shifted away from these one-off videos like the greatest freakout ever and shifted towards accounts and people who were making consistently entertaining content. As a child, I fondly remember watching Freddie W., who turned into Rocket Jump in his special effects videos. Smosh consistently uploaded very funny skits that have since become deeply embedded in internet culture. There was Fred, who pitched his voice up and acted like he had ADHD and was a tweak. My mom really liked him. And there were accounts like Ray William Johnson and Equal3 who just sort of did what Tosh.0 did in a shorter format on YouTube. So at this point, we had the groundworks of our modern internet entertainment ecosystem. Small creators with these at-home studios, so to say, making these homemade fun videos and sort of bringing the high production of TV shows over to the internet in a DIY fashion, effectively allowing for the gate of network television for media creatives to be removed. And it was a great, hope-filled time for the internet because the sky seemed like the limit. A few years later, a lot of these influencers ended up breaking into corporate media or making projects that rivaled their quality. Freddie W. would make Video Game High School, the web series that was pretty high quality for a web show at that time. Fred had several movies that are genuinely funny, and Smosh also made a movie. I don't think it was good. And, Ray William Johnson made music. Okay, it's weird, but still, you see how a lot of these guys from the first guard of content creators, they found, success in the real world. Well, a lot of people noticed that their success extended beyond just a large number of fans. It gained a lot of monetary value as well. Around the same time as these guys rose to fame, you also started to see the early corporate YouTube channels that cashed in too. BuzzFeed made slop, WatchMojo had slop, Machinima was good for a little bit but eventually turned into slop, but these channels were just as popular as many of the aforementioned creators, raking in millions of views and good money at the time. What set YouTube apart from other social media at that point in time was that it paid its creators. Way back in 2007, YouTube started having ads on their platform. Not like the ones we have today with 30-second unskippable ads, but these little banners and ads on the corner of the screen would pop up. And the good people at YouTube allowed their popular creators to monetize their platforms with the YPP program, or YouTube Partner Program. This essentially made it so that these smaller DIY-based channels could realistically fund themselves from their content alone, and this was a really big deal in the grand scheme of things. Let's look at Tumblr, for example. At the same time, I'm talking late 2000s, early 2010s, Tumblr was also a wildly popular alternative social media platform. It was an easy-to-operate blog platform where people could talk about whatever, and lots of people really liked it, particularly teenagers. Some Tumblr accounts were just people posting about what they liked, and they gained tens of thousands of followers and gave these bloggers a platform to express their opinions that may have heavily influenced their followers in a variety of ways. But Tumblr didn't pay their creators, so it wouldn't necessarily be a prominent source of income like YouTube. Anyways, the YouTube Partner Program was proving to be very profitable. Aforementioned Ray William Johnson of Equal3 would be the first creator on YouTube to make $1 million in 2011, which was a huge deal. This dude talking about viral videos of lackluster commentary had made $1 million from it. And all of a sudden, a lot of people had little money signs for eyes when looking at the platform and social media as a whole. By the 2010s, it was clear to everyone that the social media platforms were becoming very powerful when it came to outreach. Billions of people across the world logged onto these websites and consumed content from these creators, and a lot of younger generations didn't necessarily watch TV as much as their parents. Instead, they watched YouTube videos, which also meant that they weren't sitting through commercial breaks. Don't get it twisted, YouTube at this point had skippable ads, but they were skippable and generally ineffective compared to TV advertising. So marketing execs had to get creative, which meant they also kind of had to get evil. Let's take a minute to look at some ads, shall we? What do these have in common? Well, products, yes, aren't you so smart, but also celebrity endorsements. You see, companies for an extremely long time have used the likeness and image of contemporary celebrities to help bolster their product sales. There's this really interesting phenomenon that marketing geniuses caught on to decades ago, that consumers mistakenly view celebrities as relatable, trustworthy, and reliable, when in reality they generally are not. They are people who are also trying to make money. But putting a celebrity in an advertisement with a product would help sales by association. Here's one from a long time ago. It's Orson Welles drinking wine. A lot of people looked at it and went, wow, Orson Welles is so cool and artistic and he probably has great taste. I guess I'll buy the wine that he drinks. You see what I'm saying? Side note, this video of him plastered trying to do the ad is so great.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated.
Oh my god, it never gets old. Anyways, this is a practice that has been extremely effective for decades at this point, and is still something that is seen all over the place today. But it relied upon the presumption that the ad was unskippable, and since these mostly are broadcasted on television, you can't really skip them with the touch of a button. Companies could still broadcast these on YouTube, like with LeBron selling Sprite Cranberry, but it didn't matter if I don't watch it. So how do we get around this? Well, the answer required some redefining and reframing of concepts. Let's look at another very simple but important series of questions. What is a celebrity? Well, it's someone who is famous or someone who is well known. Does it matter why? No! All that matters is that people know them. What is the core reason companies employed celebrities to sell products? Because their fame could influence people to potentially buy their product. Do you know who else is famous and has a lot of influence over specific audiences? Internet personalities. There was this kind of interesting phenomenon occurring in pop culture during the early 2010s where this old guard of entertainment and celebridom, like movie stars, musicians, and athletes, and the companies that manage them, sort of refused to acknowledge the new generation of internet stars as legitimate celebrities. And to a degree, it's still kind of like that today, but those walls have slowly been torn down in the past few years. I don't know what it was, but there was this refusal to view them as equals when it came to social influence, despite many of these people being household names already, like PewDiePie. Maybe it was an ego thing, but despite the divide, it didn't stop marketing teams from noticing that the scope of who could be a celebrity had widened overnight, but instead of calling them celebrities, these internet personalities were branded as influencers. Now, influencers could fill the niche that a celebrity endorsement did for TV advertisements with even more effectiveness, potentially. A 2001 study from Rutgers University saw that individuals were using internet forums as an influential source of consumer information. The study proposed that consumers preferred internet forums and social media when making purchasing decisions over conventional advertising and print sources. I think the marketing team saw the study, looked at their potential new influencers, and saw this could be a really effective tactic for them. Remember that at this point, most famous people on the internet had developed their fame organically through their content, unless you're someone like the Jenners who are famous via nepotism and exist solely to market products. But I feel like most people can understand that. So these grassroots communities equal high trust in the creator, which means if they endorsed a product, it could potentially be very beneficial. And what was great was that it didn't even have to just be YouTube. It could be anyone on any platform with a major following. And with that, a new era of marketing was created. Sorta. Okay, I guess I'll pause here and address a few things, okay? This idea of online personalities being paid to promote products goes back far, but it was nowhere as prominent in the early stages of the internet and social platforms. Like, if you Google who the first social media influencer was, this woman named Julia Allison pops up as the answer a lot, and by all definitions, she was an influencer way back in the day. I mean, like early 2000s. But the label has been retroactively slapped on her, and the terminology wasn't really popularized until the mid-2010s. Anyways, creators started partnering with companies left and right to promote their products and their videos. All of a sudden, the ad was integrated into the content, and it was a bit more confusing. Obviously, they were being paid, but this was a completely new form of advertisement for the medium. On other platforms like Instagram, people were being paid to endorse products through their posts, and it's here where there was this very notable shift in social media. Before this occurred, it all felt genuine, and I mean, it still was. These influencers were making content they were passionate about first, and being paid to promote a product second. But now the ads had crept in. What made the early internet feel a lot more people-oriented was this lack of omnipresent advertisements in the content that people consumed. It almost was an escape from the corporate media landscape, but with this advent and rise of influencer marketing, the ads had invaded this organic space. But it wasn't anything too bad at first. Like, yeah, ad reads are annoying and the ads before the video are annoying, but I can skip them. And you know what? If it helps my favorite creator pursue their passion as a career, so be it. I don't mind. And that's kind of how the beginning of the influencer era was. But the relationship between these influencers and companies would slowly start to shift. In the late 2010s and early 2020s, it became apparent that the level of fame that was possible on the internet had become very extreme and much more influential than really anyone could have forecasted. A lot of YouTubers and social media-based creators had started to rival the old guard of entertainment and celebrity in the sheer scale of their fame, and it was becoming pretty apparent that the future of media lied in the hands of online content creation. YouTubers, social media influencers, and, this is important, streamers. In the mid-2010s, streaming on Twitch became a thing, and that has continued to stay relevant. I'm not going to explain them because I'm assuming you know exactly what a streamer is, but the medium had also proven its ability to gain massive following, and that will be important later on. There became more and more advertisements, more brand deals, more product placements. Influencer marketing really wasn't a joke. It was incredibly effective for brands as well. And its importance would be only amplified by the pandemic lockdowns. For a good chunk of time there, most of the world was forced to stay at home due to the pandemics. So naturally, time spent online skyrocketed. And it's here where another very important shift in our culture occurred. Because so many people were pushed to spend extended periods of time on the internet, the popularity of digital creators started to surpass that of traditional media institutions. Now, this was a shift that had slowly been building for several years, but the lockdowns kind of cemented it. It had become very common for the most talked about and influential celebrities to come from a digital background versus traditional celebrity backgrounds. I mean, people like KSI and the Paul brothers and Mr. Beast, all these people were arguably some of the most, and are still some of the most famous people on the face of the planet, and they come from a digital background. Okay, yes, the Paul brothers were Disney kids, but that's not why they're famous. No, it's not. I don't want to hear it. Anyways, this level of fame and influence came with a new degree of power. Obviously, these people, these powerful influencers were advertising super weapons, particularly to children, which is a highly sought-after demographic when it comes to advertisement visibility. And I'm sure that the price tags these guys demanded was probably the entire marketing budget for some companies. And these mega influencers were well aware of this. They had blurred the lines between online celebrity and full-on celebrity that had sort of divided the industry for the last decade. The actual brand of the Paul brothers or KSI or Mr. Beast or any giant mega YouTube star was wildly strong and profitable on their own, even without external advertisements paying them for ad reads. I'm sure they still do it on their podcasts or whatever, but these guys don't need money to make a living like smaller creators do. because now the influencer was a brand. To me personally, the launch of the drink Prime was the start of what the current influencer landscape has devolved into today. My older brother referred to this archetype of mega influencer in the modern era as the post-influencer, and to me, our content media landscape is the post-influencer internet. So, what do I mean by this? Well, let's remember where influencers had come from originally. They were an advertising mechanism for companies to sell products through a new age rendition of celebrity endorsement. Prominent influencers had been able to make tons of money from being an advertising tool, but it was a symbiotic relationship. As much as the companies relied on the influencers to market their product, the influencers relied on the companies to pay their bills. But the way that the products were presented was also very straightforward. This video is sponsored by blank was a pretty clear advertisement. And obviously, these still exist today. But what happens when an influencer becomes so powerful that they don't need these sponsorships anymore? Well, they become the post-influencer. KSI and Logan Paul realized, or maybe their management team realized, that they were some of the most famous people on the entire planet, not just online, like just in general. They had massive platforms reaching tens of millions of people a day, and their names generated instant engagement for almost anything that they were associated with. So they took that fame and they created their own brand. For the first time, these mega influencers were using their super mega influencing powers to sell their own products. You see what I mean by they were post-influencers? It was basically a new level of internet celebrity. It was their own celebrity brand. Think like how the Kardashians made Skims or Kanye made Yeezy. The level of fame these people had brought attention to the company just by them existing. But the thing about these products is that their popularity is heavily tied to the creators' social currency as well. Prime nowadays isn't doing so well, maybe because Logan Paul and KSI, though both undoubtedly wildly famous, are not at the helm of popular culture like they were when it was released. Now, if we look at another major post-influencer, we will see the inverse of this. Mr. Beast launched his shitty chocolate in 2022 around the same time as Prime, and since then he has released a whole bunch of other shitty Mr. Beast products, both with toys, junk food, and bad cheeseburgers. And since Mr. Beast has continued to only grow in extreme relevance, his brands have also seen a similar level of monetary success, since his name and brand association carries a massive amount of social currency. Side note, they collabed with their knockoff Lunchables that ended up being a disaster, which was hilarious because despite how famous all of them are together, it doesn't matter when you launch a shitty product and have a complete lack of understanding into the market that you're aiming to compete in. But anyways, these guys to me are kind of the pioneers of the post-influencer era in that regard. They essentially saw that Kylie Jenner was a person who is famous and exists to advertise. And they went, hey, I'm kind of famous for no reason. We could do that too with our own brands. I don't know. I guess what's so crazy to me about this particularly is that at the start of the internet, it felt like it was different than the regular world. And when advertising hit social media the way it did, all of a sudden the regular world of media had infiltrated the space that existed outside of it. But when I went to a gas station and saw Feastables and Prime in real life for the first time, it was kind of surreal because now the inverse had occurred. The internet had broken into the real world. Like, the gap had officially been bridged on a wider cultural level. And I mean, that's really crazy. And to me, this shit is still crazy. But that's only one part of the post-influencer era. Now we have to talk about a different part. How ads are presented to us. In the modern attention economy, no one has the patience to sit through an ad read. And I mean, I don't blame them. Why would I? Why would I willingly sit through an ad? That's stupid. But here's the thing. While ad reads still exist on long-form content, yes, they are a form of advertising that essentially cannot function on short-form content, which is arguably the most prominent form of entertainment on Earth nowadays. So the ads in short-form content started getting subversive. Now, this has been occurring probably since the pandemic internet, but with the rise of short-form content during that era, it became a lot more prevalent. Again, marketing executives didn't have to reinvent the wheel to fit ads into short-form videos, they just had to reuse and mutate their already existing tricks. Product placement is a very simple form of advertising. Throw a can of Coke on a table in a movie. For the most part, it's harmless. Sometimes it can be done in excess, like the Michael Bay Transformers movies, which might as well have just been a giant billboard. But product placement makes a lot of sense for short-form content. Just have the product in the frame. That's it. Energy drink companies like doing this a lot, particularly. I remember that Drink Bang, among other bizarre marketing tactics they had. They just had people take a sip from the can and then do like a fucking backflip. Like, it's stupid, but I guess it works, eh? You still see this a lot today. If you've ever seen a clip from like the Theo Von podcast, look, it's a can of Celsius. They aren't even drinking it, but it's there. I don't personally take issue with this. As I said, it's pretty harmless, and for the most part, it isn't invasive or too subversive. But just like the Michael Bay Transformer movies, anything can be taken to an extreme. If you've been on the internet, you've 100% seen an ad for a gambling website. Some are clearly an ad, others just get thrown into the video and sort of blur the lines between product placement and ad read. A short-form content creator who genuinely cracks me up is this dude named Porter Jugs. His content is hard to describe, but there is this consistent reoccurring theme: rain bet ads. Whether it's him satirically brainwashing a homeless guy with a giant TV in a room that's covered in tinfoil while a robot voice just says rain bet over and over again, or him pretending to hack an ATM and just casually panning over to him gambling on his phone, the ads are deeply integrated into all of his content on a very, very strange level. Though the nature of his content, it almost seems like it fits into this satirical take on prank channels, but just due to sheer volume, it's clear he's being paid very well. Another one would be like these degen fitness influencers. Betting fits into their persona of degenerate frat boy, essentially. And it's mighty convenient that their predominant audience is probably just that, degenerate frat boys. And who would be a better advertising demographic for an online crypto casino, right? Let's look at like that dude Togi or Shansbra. They are just perfect representations of this archetype. So it just makes sense that these companies would bake their advertising into their fictionalized lifestyle content. Yeah, about that. This is another weird aspect of the post-influencer social media landscape that I'd like to touch on too. These constructed characters that we call influencers. Okay, so how do I explain this? A lot of influencers just kind of became one as a byproduct of their followings. You get me? Like, let's look at, say, Penguin Zero Moist Critical Guy. He's famous because he's him, and he doesn't really play a character. The charisma is very natural, and his personality comes through as organic in his content. The same can be said about like PewDiePie. They are personality-driven influencers. Other influencers may get popular because they are subject matter experts, like that guy Derek from MorePlatesMoreDates.com. You know, that guy is as dry as sand, but he is incredibly intelligent in his respective field of knowledge, so his audience came to expect that from him. It's kind of a callback to the earlier days of internet fame for some past creators. On the flip side of them, there are people who have gained a following by creating these kind of satirical characters like Dom from Bro Science Life from the earlier days of fitness YouTube. He was a play on the gym bro stereotype. Or even Ziz. He kind of is this like wildly inspirational heart of gold influencer. I'm sure he was a very good guy in real life, but it's clearly kind of an act he's putting on. But the thing about these guys is, generally speaking, a viewer can tell if it's an act or if it's a real person. Another thing that all these people have in common is that they didn't necessarily start their platform to become an influencer, because at the time they started, it wasn't necessarily a valid career option. It was more of a door that opened for them while they were already on the way up, so they seized the opportunity. And to me, a vast majority of prior generation influencers sort of feel like that. That they were people who clearly were passionate or inspired enough to make content and ended up being good at it, and they caught a wave that they didn't expect would be an option. But in the post-influencer era, this sentiment is no longer true. Again, let's look at Mr. Beast because he's an easy and well-known example. This guy is roughly around my age, so he saw the come up in monetary potential that being an influencer could bring. And he actively sought out the path of influencer. He actively created created the character of Mr. Beast to become an influencer. He didn't necessarily make content in a field that he liked, then gained a fan base. He instead chose to make the most clickable content that he could with the means at his disposal to build a massive platform basically to make money. And he is certainly not the only one to have done this. A hell of a lot of people sought out to become famous influencers in one way or another, but one of the more effective ways that I have seen is the creation of a character. Now, as I just said a second ago, characters have always existed in the social media landscape, but as we entered the post-influencer era, the line was once again blurred between personality-driven content and character-driven content. And what's weird is that it's both unintentional and intentional at the same time. So when I say it's unintentional, I don't think a majority of the new post-influencers are trying to make like a WWE character persona and are completely different when the camera turns off. But the key difference is that the younger post-influencers were raised on the influencer era internet and actively sought to become influencers because they were inspired by them. What is intentional is that along the way, they developed a persona that was reflective of the content they consumed growing up or coming up, and what is currently popular in their given niche's microcultural landscape. And this results in this weird, like, meta-commentary character of the prior generation of influencers with the new post-influencer fashion. Let's refer back to that guy, Togi. For all intents and purposes, he is a caricature of a dude bro gym guy in that entire genre of content, and he is not alone in this niche either. He more than likely watched a bunch of gymfluencers when he was young, decided that he wanted to become one too, and started emulating the gymfluencer personas as he saw it. And what resulted is this like funhouse mirror reflection of the last generation of influencers in the same content field. He's more extreme, he's more brash, he blurs the line between what is legitimate and what is satire because he himself probably doesn't even know. But it's more than just his persona that blurs these lines between character and personality-driven influencer. It's the actual form of content that is produced as well. The whole IRL streaming world has played heavily into the confusion of the post-influencer era. Again, we find a similar paradox when it comes to the authenticity of popular streamers and their personalities. When I've seen clips of these popular streamers, they all feel off. Something about them it's very disingenuous. And the answer is that these people aren't real. Again, what do I mean by this? Well, the simple answer is media managers. If you look into most of these streamers, and honestly a lot of just internet personalities that are popular at this point, you will find that a majority of them are products of a digital talent management company. These agencies find up-and-coming talent with potential and essentially mold their personas into something that they believe will be hyper-profitable with the end goal of producing a powerful brand similar to that of Mr. Beast. In fact, the Beast was a product of one of these companies, a company called the Night Company. It's a very powerful player in the digital entertainment space. They essentially built Mr. Beast into what he is today because he was their number one product from 2018 to 2024. The same company has created the persona of disingenuous political grifter and streamer Hassan Piker, along with the cartoonishly fake streamer Kai Cenat. And I mean, watching any of these guys, it's pretty clear that these are not like DIY projects. Companies like Night invest millions of dollars into their content creators. They aid in production, they aid in PR, they have them stream, and then they pay armies of clip farmers to repost them across various short-form content platforms across dozens of different accounts in order to maximize views, reach, and engagement. It's basically a production line of content being passed off as something that is authentic or homegrown since it comes from the internet. What many people fail to understand is that a person like Kai Cenat is more like a Hollywood star than he is like a normal person. But because his content arose from the internet, he is instilled with the ethos of authenticity. Since if he's a streamer on YouTube, he's just a guy in his bedroom making videos, right? He's just like me. Wrong. Ultimately, there has been a major underlying shift in the way that digital entertainment has been produced, and a subsequent shift in the way that it is now being received and engaged with. What the post-influencer internet represents to me is a transition away from the open source ideology of what made platforms like YouTube so fun to begin with. While yes, anyone is still free to post whatever they want, I'm posting a video with a puppet narrating it. We have seen the most popular creators in recent years lack this feeling of authenticity that used to be there. And instead, they have been these articulately curated products designed to appeal and engage with as many people as possible in order to sell associated brands and maximize profitability. What made the internet so fun was that it felt like a creative escape from corporatized media of this exact nature. And for the most part, people still seek out digital entertainment as an alternative to traditional media sources. But as we've seen over the past decade, the very corporate media culture people sought refuge from has slowly infiltrated and has even started to shape the current digital media landscape into a production line of content right under our noses. Thankfully, since the scale of these platforms is it's enormous, there will always be regular content creators, just normal people passionate about what they do, hobbyists uploading videos, whatever. But as we continue into this post-influencer era, more and more of these content industry creators are popping up, and the way they have affected the landscape of media content it's undeniable and it's shocking. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the current digital landscape of content. As someone who has actively been on YouTube for honestly over half of my life now, I couldn't help but notice a major shift in the creators of this platform and what the content looks like. I'm sure there's a shitload of stuff that I didn't cover, but most of this was kind of just off the dome for me. And this really lacked any real structure, so to say. So what did I miss? You tell me. What else has made social media and the internet not as fun anymore? What's your favorite subversive marketing tactic? I'd love to hear about it all below. And yeah, I'm gonna say it. If you're one of my regular viewers, what'd you think of the puppet? Did you like the puppet? Because it's here to stay. Okay, bye-bye.